Hello, my fellow magical people. I'm Emily, and my passion is to talk about mental magic, emotional alchemy, and identity. I felt very drawn to making a YouTube video in the raw and wriggling. And it makes me so nervous. I can actually feel the anxiety and like the nervousness and the heat starting to come up into my face. I think that's exactly why I needed to make this kind of video. And that's what my heart feels like my next step is. Because I've made them in the past, but it still felt very like forced. And I want to get more in tune with the flow. Be a little bit more like these jellyfish. I don't know if you can see, I've also got some little like plastic silicone ones that are bobbing around in this water container. So I wanted to talk about the emotional guidance scale as a tool for helping us move through emotional triggers and intensities. And it's not a fix-all, but it is a fantastic tool that I've used where if I'm feeling angry, or if I'm feeling doubt, fear, any emotion that you would consider more negative or dark, the darker emotions, it helps you bring them up into more of like a neutral state, and even popping you up into some positive vibes, but not through force though, through empowerment. And I think that's the difference there. Not positive toxicity, but deep empowerment that helps us shimmy shake our way from the darkness into the light. So I'll pop that emotional guidance scale right here so you can see it. This is one that I like to reference from Esther Hicks. I believe she had it in one of her books that came out in around 2004. And I love using it as a tool to help me identify where my emotional state is at, and then climb the ladder of emotional intensity until I get to an emotion that feels less distressing and more peaceful or neutral, without dipping into, distracting behavior. So like if you feel triggered by something, sometimes your automatic response is to just hop on your phone. This is more of like a head-on, I'm gonna figure this out and I'm going to, empower myself to actually process the emotion and let it go, rather than like holding on to it or pushing it away or choosing distraction over emotional alchemy. I'll do another video about what emotional alchemy is later, because it's just, it's fabulous. Also super witchy, so like, why wouldn't you love it? It's magical. Hello? Taking mental and emotional like things that are intense and turning them into magic. It's amazing. Where was I? Yes, the emotional guidance scale. I like to use it, right? So we identify what our emotion is in the moment. So I'll give you an example. I made a video, which I'll put on the screen here so you can see my goofy silliness. It was a video about dressing up, playing dress up as an adult, which I love to do. I love color. I love expressing my exuberance through clothing, through makeup, through hair. It's just fun, and that makes me feel good. But as I was making this video, as I was editing it, so I'd filmed the video, I had so much fun, I really enjoyed it, and then I got into the editing phase, and this little voice of shame started to whisper its mystical nonsense in my ear, and was basically saying a bunch of bullshit about, you know, you're a 32-year-old woman. Why are you wasting your time dressing up? Nobody's gonna take you seriously if you wear poofy pink clothing or spend your time fiddling around editing and doing like really bad transitional clothing swap videos. And I began to feel so bad. And then I remembered, oh, hey, I have a tool for this. And I pictured the emotional guidance scale in my mind, and I was like, okay, where I'm feeling shame. I'm feeling guilty because I feel like I shouldn't have spent so much time on this video. And I'm also feeling ashamed of myself because, like, I'm an adult. Maybe I should not be doing such childish stuff. And shame is right at the bottom. And I've gotten to a point, and I hope that you have too, and if you haven't, that's okay, but I've gotten to a point where when you start feeling these like you're having these shameful thoughts, they turn into shameful emotions, and then you just start feeling fucking bad about yourself. And do not add insult to injury. Don't pour more salt on the wound. And that's one thing I've learned about this whole emotional journey is, like, if you can be your own best friend, and when you recognize that you're like, oh shit, I'm in guilt and shame right now, if you start judging that emotion, if you start judging where you are, that is not very helpful or beneficial to actually processing the emotion. It'll store it more quickly in your body instead of releasing it in a more like healthy way. At least that's what I've found. So you recognize where you are on the emotional scale, and I was like, damn it, I'm at the bottom. I'm feeling shame, I'm feeling guilt. And then what I did was like, okay, I'm recognizing that I'm feeling this guilt and shame, and I'm gonna sit here with this feeling. I'm gonna say, you know what? I recognize you. I'm not gonna judge you. I'm gonna do my best to give you some space and grace that you're feeling this emotion right now. And I don't want to stay here too long. I don't want to bring this feeling into the rest of my day. How can I shift it? So you look at the emotional scale, you say, okay, I'm at the bottom. Then what I like to do, if you're climbing it in a gradual way, is to take a look at, you know, what's the next couple emotions above guilt and shame, or wherever you have identified your emotion on the emotional scale. And I saw we had good old anger. So, and that was, when you're sitting with your emotions, if you do it long enough, you'll start to notice, like, what is the next best emotion that you can reach for, or the next best thought that you can reach for that actually feels like believable for you to acquire, achieve, resonate with. And so when I was feeling guilt and shame, the easiest one that I could attach myself to was anger. Because if you've ever felt really shamed and guilt and you feel bad, you're not gonna be able to feel joy. You're not gonna be able to just be like, la la la, everything's great and fine, I'm exuberant, you know, I'm able to create. You can't create very well from that low standpoint. So the closest thing that I could get to was anger. So then I started pumping myself up. I was like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna feel ashamed of myself, and I'm not gonna guilt trip myself that I spent my afternoon dressing up, because I love that about me. I feel so jazzed about dressing up in ridiculous clothing. I love the color. I love the bad edits. I have fun while I'm doing it, and that's how I express my childlike nature, which I value. So, that's gonna make me cry. So, I was able to pull myself out of guilt and shame, not through force, but through power. So I picked anger, and that popped me up from feeling guilt and shame up into anger. It was like, no, my boundary's being crossed. I'm creating the cross of my own boundary. So it was like, oh shit. No, I get to choose how I spend my time. I get to do that. And this is how I love to express myself. And that feeling then bumped me up into empowerment. And then when I had that feeling of empowerment in me, I actually just burst out laughing because I had moved so quickly from feeling shame and guilt up into anger, had this burst of emotion, and that fueled the fire up into feeling empowered in my childlike nature, in my individuality, in my uniqueness, in my expression. No. And that felt fucking good. And laughter is an amazing physical export, an amazing physical movement, or I don't even know what you call it. It's a portal. Laughter is a portal from the darker emotions up into the lighter emotions. And I know you've felt that before because, you know, we wouldn't have like dark humor and stuff like that, right? Because the laughter of that thing that you know is so horrible actually pops you out of the darkness. So yeah, I went through that transition: shame, guilt, anger, empowerment, and then like through the portal of laughter from anger up into empowerment, and then the beautiful neutral feeling of pure acceptance, which I love the expression of acceptance because that just allows all of the emotions to play together and brings your nervous system back into like a beautiful regulated state. I love acceptance for that because you're just like, yeah, I felt guilt and shame. I felt anger, which doesn't feel necessarily good, but it feels better than guilt and shame. And then I popped up into empowerment. I felt super good. And then when you kind of come down off the high of empowerment, you are able to kind of land in this neutral state of acceptance of just that entire emotional roller coaster that we just experienced. I love emotions. I think they're so fantastic. And this is just one way that I use this emotional guidance scale to transform emotions, to release anything that needs to come up and be recognized and then dissipated. Because we don't really want to hold on to those things because at least in my belief that it can get trapped in you. And the more we trap the emotions that we feel and we shy away from them, the more likely it is that it's going to be harder to do what it is that you want to do, like express yourself, because you're basically just gonna build like a snowball. You're gonna build a snowball effect of feeling guilt and shame every time you express yourself, and then that's gonna make it less likely for you to want to do it more often. So you gotta nip it in the bud. You gotta say, no, I don't want to feel that way. How can we empower ourselves instead of forcing the feeling away? How can we empower ourselves to process, to accept, and then to move into the rest of our day feeling more empowered than disempowered? So that's why I love the emotional scale. There's other ways that you can do it. This one is specifically like you're climbing from one emotion to the next. But once you become very good at alchemizing your emotions and recognizing your triggers and just getting faster and smoother, you don't actually have to think about what you're doing. You can just know where you are and then you'll be able to like naturally know what emotion's going to come next, or which one will feel the most achievable for you in the moment, which I fucking love it. Oh, I'm such a nerd for this stuff. I love it so much. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about the emotional guidance scale and how I use it as a tool, and how I hope that this inspires you to check it out for yourself. Yeah, I think that's all. Leave me a comment below if you use the emotional guidance scale as a tool to help regulate and transform your emotions. Let me know. Do you do this, or do you do it just automatically? What's your process? I'd love to hear about you and your journey. Maybe leave me a little, let's see, what's that emoji where it's like, and it's got like the steam coming out of its ears? I'll put it here. Put that in the comments if this message resonated with you, and if you're ready to start taking your power back, getting that inner agency back so that you can process your emotions in a more beautiful way. All right, I think that's all. I hope you have a beautiful, magical day, and I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!